Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. A lot of you take the time every month to come and listen to us. So we really do appreciate it, don't we, Quentin?
Absolutely.
And how are you today?
I'm doing great. I just got back from being in Mexico for a month, and unfortunately, it's a little colder here than Mexico, but that's okay. I moved from like positive 26 to minus 26, but whatever. Today it's only -2, so it's not bad. But it's good. It's the power of owning real estate for a long period of time that's been able to help me to do that, right? So I'm ecstatic to kind of enjoy the benefits of it and my family as well, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. You've really been able to build something. And Quentin, you're gone all the time now. Were you really gone a month? Was it a month or was it a
yeah,
little bit less?
I think it's like 26 days,
Uh-huh.
something like that.
But
But
it flew by. I thought you just
yeah.
left.
That's what it felt like for me, I'm telling you. But last year I was able to travel about 4 months of the year, which is kind of was like my 10-year goal, which I achieved in like probably a lot less than that. I can't remember. But and so I want to try to expand that and see if I can get that out a little bit more this year and still maintain my businesses and all of that. So yeah, it's been really good. I'm quite happy. I want to continue to grow my real estate portfolio as well, add a few more apartment buildings. And how about yourself, Rob? What are you up to in Costa Rica?
Costa Rica. Well, it's been an exciting week, Quentin. Actually, it's we've been working on something for a really long time, and just a week ago today, we closed on a gym. We bought a gym,
What?
and yeah.
That's
So we
cool.
yeah we bought a local gym here. The guy started it up, and then he uh, he has like three other gyms in faraway towns, and most of them are in local towns. This is more of an expat community. It's more of a mix right here. So we do have like our base for our members is a lot of locals, but at the same time, he wasn't used to seeing all of the expats, and the place is a little bit far away. So I approached him one day and I just said, "Hey, would you be interested in selling the gym?" And we've been working on it for 5 months, but now we've got it.
Oh,
So
very
that's been very
cool.
cool. Yeah. So it's called Surfside Gym, Surfside Gym Costa Rica on Facebook, if anyone wants to look it up. But it's been
Awesome.
fun. We're making some little changes and things like that, making it our own, and it's been going great.
Hey, that's awesome. So when I come and visit you, we'll have to go to the gym.
We will go to the gym. I try to be there as much as I can. I got with real estate and everything else going on. I can't be there as much as I want, but I like being there. It's just cool. It's a
Oh,
cool
very
place to
cool.
hang out.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone listening, go over to breakthroughreipodcast.ca. Listen to all of the shows that we've done over the past, what is it now? 12, 12 years, I think.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and get in touch with the guests that we've interviewed. All of their info is over there in the show notes. So you can contact anyone that we've talked to over these past years and years of learning from so many really powerful, educated, experienced investors and different people in the investment world that we've talked to over this amount of time. So there is just a wealth of knowledge over there. So go over there, listen to that. Then go over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. I'd really urge people to go ahead and do that. I know that it does take a couple minutes, but it's actually pretty easy. They've streamlined it. Go over, tell us what you think. You know, I think Quentin deserves 5 stars. Maybe you don't, but I think he deserves 5 stars. Go over there to iTunes and let us know. What's that? Quentin's holding up this bobblehead that he has of me.
It's a bobblehead Rob. It's always good. If I ever, get to think, I gotta rub the head there, bobblehead Rob.
You ever ask it
Hmm.
for advice and then just
No,
like whatever way it shakes, the yes or
no,
no?
no.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a
Oh,
master of my own destiny. Well, we have an awesome
yeah. Let's
guest.
talk to our guest.
And let me just do a little bit of an introduction. Kory MacKinnon is a seasoned investor with over 20 years of experience across multiple investment strategies, multifamily development, furnished rentals, self-storage. He's a partner in strategic success consulting. He's passionate about helping others achieve their next level through coaching, events, communities with like-minded investors or business owners. And he has a multiple eight-figure portfolio that has helped him to reach financial freedom. Kory now focuses on empowering others to achieve the same success, to live an intentional life on their own terms. He's a father of four, enjoys travel and almost every sport. So it sounds like he's a health nut as well as a real estate investor.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Kory.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me back on the show. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah. You were on the show 7 years ago. We were just talking about that. 7 years thing is that May 2019 was 7 years ago, which is ridiculous just to begin with. But yeah, it's been a long time since we've talked to you. So I'm very excited to catch up on all the things you've been doing since then. Yeah, I remember that about you. You're like an Olympic weightlifter, right?
I was, yeah, this was way back before CrossFit and before many people knew. They kept confusing me with like being a wrestler because we both wear singlets of some sort when you're competing. But yeah, we're doing this back Rocky style in like an unheated, uninsulated garage. There was a wood stove in there in the wintertime and people just don't know how good they have it at these gyms and boxes these days. Like we literally used to heat up the bar with a propane torch in the beginning of our workouts, but I took it to the national level as junior national champion. I went to some pretty big tryouts, like Commonwealth tryouts, Olympic trials in 2000, and I made a comeback when I was 39 to show my kids what I used to do, and I won nationals a few more times. But yeah, it's health and fitness. If you don't have your health, I mean, you don't have much, and it's not about like how long you live. It's like your health span, not your lifespan, right? So just turned 50 on Christmas Eve, and I still feel like I'm in my 30s, which is the goal. So
Very cool. Very cool. I see a Muhammad Ali poster behind you. What does that say?
yeah, it's basically him and Sonny Liston. He's basically yelling at him to get up. Right. So I'm a huge I was never a fighter, but I can appreciate, martial arts and boxing and fighting and stuff like that. It's interesting for sure. So, and all the classic fights and whatnot.
Well, let's get a little bit of a recap from you. I know anyone that wants to dive deep into what he was into back 7 years ago, go listen to that show. We're just going to get a quick little recap of how you started. Tell us a bit about yourself too and how you started.
Sure. I mean, I don't think my story is that uncommon, but most people just don't take it as far as we all have here on the podcast. I grew up, pretty humble beginnings. Like my grandparents raised eight kids in a 600 square foot house up in Sudbury. My dad left as soon as he could. He was the oldest of those eight kids and came down to Sarnia, Ontario, because there was a lot of hiring and a lot of work coming, down here from the refinery. And I just remember living in a duplex. Like there was a little old lady that lived upstairs, and my dad would go collect. I think it was only like $175 back then. She had a legacy rent that was locked in forever, no rent raises or whatnot. And I just thought it was normal to have someone living above you, right? And that was our reality. And we lived the home was probably 60 to 70 years old at the time. And right across the street there's like a brand new development. Like they're building all these new houses when Sarnia was booming and the population was growing a lot more. My best friend's dad was a realtor as well when I was growing up. And then my parents were entrepreneurial. And then one of my first jobs in college was an entrepreneurial type of a position. And I saw my boss house hacking back in the day. So I was just constantly exposed to this. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad as soon as it came out. I can resonate with you buying a gym there, Rob, because I went to school for sports facilities and recreation administration. It was half sports and rec admin and half business, and I kind of migrated towards the business side of things. And I was a gym rat too. That's where I did all my co-ops and everything. So I've worked with a lot of people in the CrossFit world who also want to divest and get into real estate too. But yeah, so I saw my boss doing this. I read The Wealthy Barber because, Chilton is from Point Edward, which is like right touching Sarnia. It's kind of part of Sarnia. Met him in person and talked to him before, great guy. And I just resonated with those books, right? I just knew there was more. I didn't want to be average. I didn't want to be a cog in the wheel. I didn't want to work in corporate until I was 65 and, have a pension or whatever. I was like, there's got to be a different way, right? I've always seen entrepreneurs and people who could make their own time, their own schedule. It just that really connected with me, right? And that's what I was chasing from a young age. So I worked for Student Works Painting for 17 years. That's where university and college kids go run a painting franchise. It's just a great experience for them. Helped to triple the size of that business when I was there. Still stay in touch with them. I still speak to the alumni group. I think it's kind of like the junior achievement of university. And I didn't buy my first property until I was 30 because I was too busy in corporate, chasing and saving up for that big down payment, right? I wanted to get into a bigger property. I wanted to be in a multiplex. And back then I didn't want to pay any CMHC fees. So that 25% down payment back then was a big chunk. But the first one I bought was a sixplex, and I haven't looked back since. And since then, we've dabbled in some other strategies like conversions, raw land. Going to be building a big apartment building out of a church that we bought, and bought a storage facility, which is actually one of my favorite businesses out of all of them. You really can manage them remotely. It's way more passive than an active real estate portfolio with tenants that live in the units and they're constantly wearing things out and capex expenses, and it's cheaper to build storage and stuff too. So it's been an interesting journey.
Well, let's go back to that 6 unit for a minute. I don't want to glaze over that because it's interesting. You said it took a long time to raise the deposit, right? That was needed, the down payment. And you could have at any time probably bought a duplex or even a triplex or something else. What gave you the drive and discipline to wait until you could afford the sixplex?
Yeah, I was working so much. Like I was a young bachelor, and the first year or two of my career, I didn't earn a lot because we had some of the worst weather in history for rain and everything, and we were running a business that relied on good outside weather. So it wasn't really until year three that I started earning good money, and then it took me like 4 or 5 years just to save up. I needed $107,000 for that down payment. I mean, the property is worth a lot more now, but I bought it for 410,000, and now it's worth probably like 1.4 million. So just
Mhm.
hearing Quentin's, preamble here, it's like, when you get into real estate, it's just get in when like as soon as you can, because as soon as you start the clock and that snowball starts to build and that hockey stick curve of your equity starts to open up, when you play the long game, you're not just here for a couple years. When you're in it for the long game and you realize when I'm buying something, I don't want to let go of this for at least 10 years. That's when you can really start to access the benefits from real estate, right? And you can refinance and you don't have to sell and pay capital gains. And obviously there's active strategies and there's more passive strategies, but that's kind of what I've had my sights set on, right? I wanted to go a little bit bigger on the first one because I wanted to really live rent free. And sometimes like in a duplex or a triplex, that isn't as possible. So, and that was the case. So as soon as I got into that one, I set up shop in the biggest unit. I had the biggest 3 bedroom unit with the full basement and the garage, and the other 5 units helped to pay for everything.
That's really cool. You know what, I owned a storage facility as well, but my experience was a little different than yours. But my guess is that the size of my facility was the problem. Like I ended up with like a storage facility. We had about 50 units, and I found that my returns were like I think I would have done. I mean, I did basically the same as I would have on like a house or a small building, but it wasn't as good as what I thought it could be. What was the size of your storage facility, or what is the size of your storage facility, and how like I'm just a little bit curious how you made that profitable.
Sure. Yeah, we bought it. So it's about 80 units. So it's not hundreds and hundreds of units. We are going to intensify it because we have an extra half acre. So we can build, I think, another 90. And we've been dropping sea cans on the property too, just as proof of concept that there is the demand, and we rent out spots to RVs and everything else as well. So we bought that 4 years ago for 950,000. And back when I bought it at a six cap, but all the rents were low by like 25%. The owner had not raised rents like ever. He owned it for 15 years. So some of them were at market rent if they recently rented. And even then, he was giving a lot of deals. He owned the property right next door, which was a busing company. And it was an easy buy for him. He could manage it easily. People would literally walk over, give him cash, check, credit card. I was like, you got to systemize this and streamline it a bit more because I'm not going to be the person next door that's, opening and closing the gate and everything, right? So we manage it remotely right now. We only go out there if there's a significant issue. And, we literally pushed it up to like a nine cap in the first year just by we didn't even do a full rent raise. We didn't go from, you know, catching up that 25% difference. I think we caught up by 10% that year, then another 10%. We just did the last 5% now. So everybody's at market rent. And yeah, for the amount of management that it takes, it doesn't take a lot of management. You need a burner number, you need cameras out there, and you just need maybe like somebody that's going to be in there on a regular basis, which is my grass and snow guy. We actually give him free space in there, and he's in and out every day, and he can kind of be our eyes and ears, which is great. So to me, it's a great business that brings in like 9 or 10 grand a month, and it's a lot of fun.
No, that's awesome. So
Do
go ahead, Rob.
I was gonna I was gonna ask if either of you found any treasure in that business.
Well, it's funny. I mean, people are like, why'd you get a storage, business? And I'm like, I've been kind of researching this for a long time, just because I see where the demand is going. Like houses are getting smaller, people don't have as much space, people are becoming more materialistic. They don't want to let go of their stuff, even though we're in this like throwaway economy. Like we'll just go buy more stuff. But with the baby boomers aging and passing away, and the kids having to take care of their estates and things, people need space to put their stuff in, and it's way more popular in the States. And actually, the whole idea kind of came from the States and then came up to Canada. But I just see the way the world is going with housing being more expensive to build, and it's kind of like in Toronto or on the outskirts of Toronto, it's a lot more normal for people to have a storage unit. And this isn't a small town; it's in Petrolia, Ontario, but everybody needs a place to store their stuff. And the only time that we kind of were even able to think about treasure was, sometimes tenants don't pay, even though despite our best efforts trying to reach out and get a hold of them, you put their stuff up on an auction website. And many times, each time I've had to do it, we've actually gotten more on the auction than what they actually owed us. They owed us $500. We'll get six, eight, $900 in the auction, because if there's some valuable stuff in there, people are going to bid it up. So
Hmm.
I could go and
Have you had
see.
to do that a lot though? How many auctions have you done?
I've only had to do two or three. It's
Yeah.
we try to work with people, and we
Uh-huh.
we got the riffraff out, and we screen pretty heavily. Like we don't accept everybody. Just because somebody wants to use your storage facility doesn't mean that you should. Just like tenants, right? Just because someone wants to rent your unit doesn't mean you should
You
rent
don't
to
need
them.
bodies or drugs in there.
No, no. So I literally had a guy, actually, funny story. We had somebody living in one of the units once, and we had to call the OPP and shake them up. And I actually kept him as a client. I just said, look, this is your one get out of jail free card. I can understand you're on tough times. Your girlfriend or whatever fiance kicked you out. You can't live in your unit, despite what you see on YouTube. But and his unit was actually really well set up. He had shelving, he had his bed. It was actually neater than some of my tenants' units for long-term rentals. But I'm like, you gotta
Like,
get
what are
it.
you talking about? I'm just storing the bed here and my,
Yeah.
my clothes. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, I was just tired. I just put my head down. But I mean, he would leave the door open a little bit, and the person that was in and out every day is like, Corey, I think something's going on in there. Like he literally parks his car in front of the door and leaves the door open, and I swear he's sleeping in there. I'm like, this isn't good. Just let me know next time you see him. We'll call the OPP. So we did, and he's been good. He's been a good client. It's been 2 years. He hasn't done any nonsense since. So
That's cool. I remember I had somebody sleeping in a shed we had a shed in a multifamily building, and somebody's boyfriend who was a tenant in the property was actually living in the shed. But it had like an electrical cord going from the girlfriend's unit into the shed with a
Why didn't you
heater.
just stay with her if
I
that's
No, I think they had a
It was the
fight,
doghouse.
and I don't know. And then it was,
The doghouse,
then we
literally
had
the doghouse, huh?
the police involved. Same thing. It's crazy. Like you have so many stories. It's just the nature of the business, right?
Oh
So, I
yeah.
mean, those were a couple of little things, but what have been some of the bigger challenges that you've had to face, uh, going through all this stuff that you've went through?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody faced challenges during COVID. A lot of people were, breaking leases, wanting to go to rural areas or, go do virtual schooling. So I do have some units in London, Ontario that are I don't like to do student housing, but I'll do student units. Like if it's a 3 bedroom unit or 4 bedroom unit, I'm probably going to rent that to students just because they'll get a higher rent per room. And man, there's a lot of lease breaking going on. There would be some times where we'd had to re-rent 3 times in one year. That was pretty common. I also rent to a lot of transient workers here in Sarnia for shutdowns, plant shutdowns, and then their jobs were getting canceled and things were getting put on pause, and we'd have to re-rent units. So we just pivoted. Like they also didn't want to do in-person showings, so we'd get Matterport scans of the units, and I had a guy that was doing those for 150 bucks. So I'm like, for 150 bucks, like we'll do virtual tours of everything. And just send them the link and we'll do a virtual tour. We'd literally just get on Zoom and show them the unit and say, what do you think? And we could do Google Street View of the neighborhood, and they're like, yeah, we're ready to rent it. So,
Hmm.
but as of late, I mean, in 2025, 2026, I think everybody is struggling a little bit with rent softening, with lack of, just when you think of currency, right? They call it currency because for a money system to be working, like money's got to be moving, and money just isn't moving as much. Things aren't transacting as much. And yeah, so just you've got to be more competitive on your rents, which is fine. We recently just, you drop your rents by 100 bucks and or 5 to 7%, and you start to get the phone ringing again, right? So when you have a lot of equity in your properties, you don't have to fight over every single, $25 increment on your rentals. To me, I just want to get it rented with the right person, who's maybe not going to want to be there for life, so we can reset the rent every, 2, 3 years or whatever. And that's been the latest struggle, I think, is just, keeping units full and, just managing rental costs, managing all expenses. Everything's gone up in price, and we're not doing like full renos. We're just doing a lot more cosmetic renos these days. And if I'm leaving 100 bucks on the table because we didn't do everything, that's okay. To me, it's just about keeping things full and rented and keeping the money coming in. And if we're trying to go for a refi or something like that, like right now we're doing a full reno on a unit because we're going to refi that property. But if we don't have to, we won't.
Is that in an apartment building or like a 5+ unit?
Yeah, a lot of my properties are 8 units or smaller. I've never gotten into the bigger apartment space, although I do want to. And when we do this 29 unit build, we'll have a bigger one. So yeah, we own a lot of doors, and then we've just been, building it together with just a lot of these like, 4 to 8 unit buildings, and it's worked out well. But it's also one of those things where, man, it'd be nice to just manage fewer properties, still have a lot of doors, and get into some of the bigger units, which is our next stage as an investor here too. So we can trade up, right? We're in the trading up game now.
Yeah, that's
Have
that's
you
a that's a great idea for sure.
have you guys seen a lot of people over the past few years who are over, like, who are maybe too over leveraged to deal with that fact that the rents are softening?
Oh, for sure. I think people don't realize it's not a privilege to go buy real estate. I mean, it's your right to buy it if you can afford it, and you got to make sure you have reserves, right? A lot of people get into this, whether it's business, real estate, you name it, and they don't have any reserves. And you got to have extra cash in the bank. You got to have a good paying job until you can actually start to step away from that. It took me 7 years before I actually said, hey, we've got enough rentals, enough cash flow. I've got enough savings. I'm living, still living a pretty lean life here. When you live like a student, as long as you can, then you have flexibility and have some options. But I think people don't realize that it's not best case scenario. It's got to be like, it's not always worst case scenario, but it's got to be a most likely scenario. And yeah, things wear out, and you're going to have cash calls and whammies and things that hit you. And if you've never played Monopoly or Cash Flow Quadrant, I mean, you need to you need to get used to some of these things and playing it on paper, because this is going to happen in real life. Furnaces go, boilers go. We had a flat roof that I did like 8 years ago, and We had a downspout that got disconnected and we didn't notice it. And it was just, water was still getting in. So we had to redo that whole roof. There goes 10 grand, right? So yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is people are too aggressive. They think rates are going to stay low forever. I mean, I got in my first property, I think my first mortgage was 5.99%. I've seen my parents I remember when my dad was paying 18% interest, and it was a big celebration when they got under double digits, right? So just a
Hmm.
lot of a
Yeah.
lot, a lot of people have never seen these higher rates and higher expenses, and I feel like my dad now, just complaining about how expensive everything is, but that's what you get with inflation, and that's why it's so important to be in some of these asset classes.
Well, it's interesting. I wanted to get into this too because you've said that with the right systems, the LTB in Canada isn't as bad as most people make it out to be. So I really like to have you explain what you mean by that. I would tend to agree. Like anytime that I've had to go and work with LTB, it really hasn't been so bad for me. And I'm lucky. It's probably maybe 5 times I've had to evict a tenant, and most of those times went very well. In contrast to a lot of the stories that you hear.
Yeah. Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit. So, my background in corporate, and I'm going to encourage everybody to not try to wear every single hat in their real estate business or in their business, period, right? Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. You got to make sure you put the right person in the right seat, facing the right direction on the bus. And for me, I feel like placing tenants is kind of a specialty of mine. I had 17 years of HR experience, right? Which is reading people, understanding their situations, cutting through the stories, connecting quickly with people, sensing when the story doesn't really make sense, right? When there's gaps in the story and you're seeing how they do one thing is how they do everything, right? It's like how they show up, how they dress, how their car looks, how their teeth look, how their cell phone looks. Like all this stuff matters, and you got to be able to triangulate it quickly and say, "Hey, is that a good decision? Should we pursue this person?" And then a lot of people don't do any reference checks, no background checks. So if you have a strong system in place, so many people are so nervous about having a little bit of vacancy in their unit that they're desperate and they go take the first person that'll fill it. And that's the biggest mistake. And they don't trust their gut, another big mistake. And then they don't have any systems in place, right? So the bar is higher these days. There are more professional tenants out there. There are more people falsifying documents. And if you're not, thinking 3 steps ahead of them, if you don't have a great vetting process, or any process, that's when you're going to run into big problems. For me, yeah, sometimes people do fall in tough times. They need to break their lease early. No problem. We'll work with you. We've had some tenants stop paying rent, but we know where they work, and we always rent to people that have jobs, and we can garnish wages. It's you got to have the conversation with them. Like just because you're not paying your rent doesn't mean it's not due. You can delay it, but it's still going to be due. And if you can't afford this unit, we will let you out of your lease. You got to keep a good relationship with the tenant, no matter how frustrating it is. Because if you're both butting heads with them, or if you push and they push back, you're not going to get anywhere. I just had some students leave my unit in really dirty condition, and that was one situation where I went against my gut. And it was 3 years ago. They really fought their case, and they put down it was in a furnished rental too, so they put down a damage deposit and everything. And it's 1 out of 100. It may not go your way, but everything's fixable too. But I feel bad for people that are over leveraged. They only have a couple rentals. They're afraid to have a vacancy. They put the wrong person in there, and then yeah, that's where issues and challenges can happen. So if you don't know how to lease up your units, that's where you should go and pay 1 month's rent and just work with a professional, work with a realtor, like Rob, or um, a great property manager who can actually fill your units for you and they treat it like your own.
Yeah,
I won't help anyone do that.
I'm just saying
that,
there's a lot of realtors these days that aren't
yeah,
transacting as much, but they're doing well with leasing, right? So that's another
Yeah,
income stream for some realtors.
yeah,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
that's something that I would watch out for too, because just because they want money doesn't necessarily mean that they're great at the filtering and exactly what you were saying, right? The due
Yeah.
diligence part. I think one of the things that is really interesting that's been happening is when you have new investors who start. and they have one or two, maybe three properties, and then they've put in two or three tenants that are questionable, it really puts them into a really like a bad financial position because all of a sudden, it's different when you have 20 units and you have two people that aren't paying, or even, maybe a third that's paying late. But if you have 5 units or 6 units and you have the same amount, then you really get into some problems. And I think also that's part of what makes the system challenging, but it's also a way to filter out people who are in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it were that easy, everybody would do it, but it isn't. So there's some definite challenges. So I agree with you. The right systems are really important for you to be able to do that.
Well,
We've
not only that, I think that, well, yeah, I mean, I guess that this is included in that. But one of the biggest things that people don't do that causes every portion of every delay is sending out the notice like the day after the person's late for their rent. It needs to be done right away, right? And so that is one of the big things that can slow it down. If you could do anything when someone's late for the rent, it gives them time to catch up, gives them 15 days to catch up. But the next day after it's due and they don't pay, always send that notice, right?
Yeah, so important. And you can just let them know, like, hey, it's just company policy. We know you're
Yep.
going to catch up on rent. But again, this is just here's your N4. Or if you live in different parts of the world, there's different forms that you fill out. But yeah, you can't buy their stories for weeks and months on end, and then all of a sudden you're 3 months without rent, and you're like, wow, I wish I would have done this on day one.
Mm.
I literally had a tenant one time. I gave her an N4, and she literally she moved out of the unit. Like she paid up her rent, or no, she used up her last month's rent. She just moved out. I was like, whoa, okay, I guess you're gone. So no notice, no nothing. But I'm like, maybe that was just her way of going, you know what, I can't afford this anymore. I'm just going to move out, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
but they
I
also know that
think
you're serious. You followed protocol, and again, I've only had to go to the tribunal like 3 or 4 times as well there, Rob, and it's just a black and white case of not paying rent. We get the order and we can pursue it. Those orders are good for years, right? And if again, you can go try to settle with them, or you can go and garnish wages. It's going to happen, right? And you got to have a little bit of a budget for that and just realize that sometimes these things are going to happen. But I totally hear what you're saying there, Quentin. Like when you're in a duplex and you're living on the main floor and the person upstairs isn't paying, that's not why you got into real estate, right? So I think it's important for people to educate themselves, to maybe just learn from people that have done this before. And you can pick up a lot of information on a podcast, but I think getting some boots on the ground experience as well, and working hand in hand with somebody who leases units or whatnot, right? I actually got to mentor through my landlord back in the day because I was kind of his boots on the ground. I didn't lease units for him, but I got to do a lot of the painting and some handyman stuff around the house, and I would let contractors in and stuff. I'd spend time with him and walk properties with them and stuff like that. So there's a lot to be said to getting boots on the ground and just learning. It's so important with these big assets. These are going to be some of the biggest investments in people's lives. So you can't learn a sport from reading a book. I'd also advise the same thing with real estate investing. You got to get granular with it. You got to get kinesthetic and be able to touch it and feel it and learn from people in the field.
Yeah, that actually ties into your program. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the pathway to clarity and prosperity.
Sure. I won't spend too much time on it, but I've been teaching people ever since grade school. Like my origin story is I remember being in grade 4 and my best friend's mom came up to me and said, "Hey, can you tutor Dave? He's not doing so well in course subject and needs some help." And I was like, I was thinking math or science or something I really liked. And she's like, "It's French." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm not like bilingual or anything like that." But I just had to find a way to teach and to help people. And then I continued to do that in high school. And then I took a career, coaching and mentoring people. So not everybody is meant to be a mentor or a teacher or to have a program. Some people just do it only for money, and it's pretty obvious. But I'm doing this really as a give back. It's my mission in life to make sure that people don't struggle as much financially. And I've seen what real estate's been able to do for me and other people around me, like you guys. And I want more people to either be an entrepreneur or to have hard assets because it's if you're just trying to do this like the traditional way and retire on your pension or work until you're 65, man, it's a tough life. And I saw my dad do that. He was fortunately able to retire at 55, and he's just been now he's got to live really frugally, right? And I don't want to see that for other people. So what we've done is we put together a program that focuses really heavily on the fundamentals for people that are getting into like their first or maybe up to their fifth property, right? They haven't scaled and grown really big at that point, but a lot of people are missing the fundamentals. Like they don't really understand how financing works, all the different types of money. They don't even understand all the different strategies. They might hear about something on a podcast and go, you know what? I want to go buy a vacation property in Costa Rica as well and just, live that lifestyle, but they don't understand that that might not be the best for their risk tolerance, their personality, their work ethic, their goals, where they are in life, right? So you got to line it up so it's super intentional. One of my friends that I was in a mastermind with during COVID has this principle. It's like the Goldilocks principle, right? Michael Dominguez wrote a book about it, and it's got to fit just right, and I think that's important for people. And you got to have the knowledge and the understanding. If you don't have the fundamentals down, you're going to continue to be punished and get taught lessons about, strategy, market, financing, how to underwrite properly, how to, make money on the buy, how to do strategic renovations and push the equity of a property. Like all these things are important. Building your power team, how to select power team members, how to select tenants. These are all really important. But once you have those down, then you can actually grow as much as you want. So
And how
that's
do people learn more about the program?
Yeah, people can reach out to me. I'm really active on Instagram. They can send an email as well, Kory@KoryMacKinnon.com. Right now we're not running ads. We were running ads for our program, and it's a combination of group cohort training, and then we also do one-on-one accountability too. So everybody's individual, and we want to make sure that people get individual time with myself or the coaches. So it is important, right? You can't just learn everything from theory and virtual calls. Like we want to get them out there in the field making offers, running lots and lots of deal analysis, and we're here to help support them, right? We're going to give them green light, red light, yellow light on their deals, and then work through them and show them how it could be a deal. That's a great question to ask, is how could this be a deal? And many properties will just never be a deal, right? But just having that support, that training, that learning, that mentorship is people don't need it forever, but I think it's important to help people get started, and it's really reasonable. We try to make it as cost effective for people as possible to get involved. So yeah, reach out. Love to have a conversation. We literally just onboarded a new student last night, so it's awesome. We help people all across North America.
That's really cool. I think what I have kind of seen over the last, I would say, 2 years, since we've started to have change, particularly in Ontario, with the rent numbers kind of tightening and the appreciation going in the opposite direction in a lot of different places. Obviously, not everywhere, because every market is really city specific, even within Ontario. What I've seen is that there's been slowly dispersion of the number of people who are interested in real estate investing, even though a lot of the deals are now penciling that they didn't pencil 2 years ago, and the numbers actually make more sense than less sense. People are actually moving away from that. And I've seen less and less programs and less memberships and less people involved in those memberships.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I think, when everybody sees people investing in real estate, then more people want to invest in real estate. Whereas, I've personally witnessed the opposite in the last 2 years. And I'm wondering if
Yes.
you see the same thing. Have you seen groups kind of get smaller? What's your experience in that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we've seen the same as well. I mean, at my peak, we had like 100 clients that we were supporting. I built a whole team and a whole business around it. And it's, when there's a lot of interest on it, for example, like let's say silver. Silver is going up like crazy right now, right? So many people
Yeah,
want to go buy silver. Well, why weren't you buying silver when it was like $25 an ounce, as opposed to, now, I mean, it's had a correction and a pullback, but same with real estate. Like 5 years ago, like so many people wanted a piece of it, and money was cheap, and it was easy to get it, easier to get it. But now, yeah, things are penciling out. Like I'm telling people, like this is when the smart money comes out. This is when, our clients that are coming to get help and support, like they're actually very serious. They're like, this is not a nice to have, which I think it is when things are really hot and getting inflated. It's a nice to have. They don't necessarily do the work and want to learn the fundamentals, but right now it's a must-have for a lot of people, and I think it's a great entry point. I think we're going to see some, positive change here in the next year or two, but it's been a challenging couple of years. And I think there's not as many groups out there because they rely on the memberships and they rely on the high ticket coaching and all that stuff to keep their doors open. Whereas we're running a really lean business. We were doing events for live events every single month for over a year, and we toned that back because people are just even struggling to put gas in their car and go buy. Our tickets were $40 at the door, right? But we had amazing speakers and a lot of great content. We don't want to just be doing this online though either, right? I think there's a lot to be said to getting people in person, shaking hands, having those
there really is.
yeah, having those
Yeah.
conversations, right? So we'll pick that back up when things are, people are a little more flush. But yeah, we're not giving up on helping people. I think it's important to make sure that people have something they can plug into. And yeah, we work with people all across Canada, and we've also started working with some US clients too. So
Yeah, it is interesting. That I mean, I think that now is really the time that people should be, fighting with all of their strength to get into real estate investing. That's probably one of the number one things that people could do right now to try and better their situation. I know everyone can't do it, but instead of maybe it is a it is a good way to, you know, possibly get yourself out of some trouble that you might have gotten in over the last few years if you do it right.
yes. Yes, and people, if you think about like what's working right now, a lot of people are thinking like too big. They see Grant Cardone or something like, I need to buy an apartment building. Well, if I can't get an
Mhm.
apartment building, then I don't want to just get a house. But, you could still get into a house and kind of live like a student. If you're in your 20s or 30s, I mean, I literally lived with roommates until I got married, right? So when I was 36 years old, that's when it was like, no, can't be staying in the sixplex anymore. But you could still live in a house and still have roommates and stuff like that, or you go camp out in the basement and go pick up a property that has a granny suite or in-law suite or whatever. Like house hacking really works, especially as a first-time home buyer. And then you can also use your RSPs as well and only put 5% down. And you know, things like that could really help people get into the market, which I think is great. And that's how I got into it, and that's how many other people are getting into things. But I agree, Rob. Like you really should be, because otherwise you're going to be priced out, and we're going to be more like Europe or Australia, where even though we're not as densely populated as those countries, like there's still a significant barrier to entry to creating new units where I don't think we'll ever catch up to the demand. And there's a lot of red tape still. It's expensive to build. Like buying resale makes a lot of sense. You can renovate for less than you can build for sure. So, but if people don't get into these asset classes, I think they're basically trying to condition this generation that it's okay to rent. And I guess it is okay to rent if that's all you want in life, but if you want to have a nest egg, if you want to have more, if you want to have an asset that's going to go up with inflation and go up over time, I know we're not really appreciating very much right now, but we're going to come back to that and that's going to happen again. So,
Yeah, it's all a cycle. Other thing that I think is a real challenge for people, even existing real estate investors, is the financing piece. Like we're in a part of the real estate cycle, just like where we would probably consider this a down part of the real estate cycle. In the financing cycle, we're also in a down piece, which makes it very hard to qualify, particularly with the way where wages are, where people are finding challenges with their employment. I think also the banks are very careful about how they're lending, who they're lending to, and the process is really challenging. So it's definitely something that we're seeing we have to be careful of.
Oh yeah, definitely. And if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way, right? Like maybe you do a joint venture with a a good friend, and you both agree to buy at the same time. You might have an easier time qualifying. I actually got an advance on my commission, so I had that $107,000 for my first one, right? I think I got 25 grand that I hadn't actually got fulfilled yet, but I was going to get it by the end of the year, but I needed it for August closing. Parents, angel investors, like people to lend to you, like find a way, get a cosigner. Like if you want it bad enough, you will find a way. Creative financing is also another piece that I've done multiple times over, and that's a great way to get into real estate too. So, but yeah, I totally hear you, Quentin. Like the banks are a lot more risk adverse, and if they've hit their criteria, they're just not going to want to lend to you, which I think is crazy to turn away business, but they do it. And you just gotta, working with a great mortgage broker is also important too. If you're just going to your bank and they say no, then hey, there's lots of other options out there. If you work with a great mortgage broker that has access to everything that's out there.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think one other thing that is a challenge right now is if you're an investor and you're trying to sell an asset, the actual amount of sales out there is quite low in general. Of course, it's market specific. Are there any strategies that you would kind of suggest to an investor who was planning on selling an asset in order to help with the sale of that asset? So let's say they had a duplex and they've held it for 10 years and now they want to sell it. Because we do see quite a bit of that. And there's still profit in the sale of the asset because they've owned it for that long. But they're trying to sell into a market that there's just not a lot going on. Do
Yeah,
you have any suggestions for somebody like that?
for sure. Well, for that person that's owned the duplex for 10 years and they want to sell it, if you could go back in the time machine and make sure that whenever you buy a property, you have to be thinking like, okay, someday I might want to sell this, right? So I always buy in great parts of town. That also helps me place tenants, but it also helps me if I ever do want to sell in the future. So because if you're in a C part of town and you got, C like a C tenant pool in the building, like it's going to be hard to sell that property. But I do know that people are wanting a little bit more turnkey these days, right? They don't want to try to burr a property or buy a property and then go put another 20 grand per unit into it. So if you can make your units more turnkey, you can even have your units vacant, right? So that people don't have to inherit tenants. They can set the rents at today's market rates. That definitely helps. I was just looking at a property not long ago with one of my students, and it was a sixplex in Sarnia, like all two-bedroom units. Only one of them had a tenant in it, so five of them were vacant and five of them were renovated. I'm like, this is like a killer deal. It's in a pretty good part of town as well. Like the guy just wanted out. He was tired of being a landlord. He was actually running a sheep, like he had a sheep farm that he's building or just growing and buying more sheep. I guess there's a lot of money in that these days with livestock. So that was his passion, and he was just getting rid of the property, right? Sixplex for 799, and
Wow.
brings in over 100K a year. Expenses were 17,000. I'm like, this makes sense all day long, So
That's
Okay,
so cool.
I'm going to say it. He was in deep sheep, right?
that's right, man. Yeah, for sure. Love it.
So
And I just wanted to mention this because we sort of talked about how much of a compromise it would be, to go and get into something like this. But really, like there's all kinds of different properties out there. You got like front and back duplexes, some even like I've seen, where it is front and back, but they both have their own driveways. They're both fenced off completely, and they got one wall shared or something like that. Like, I mean, really, if you can find something that fits your lifestyle, I guess is all I'm saying. It doesn't have to be a huge compromise in order to get into that. You don't need somebody who owns 17 dogs and they're barking all night long and you're just like, oh, I'm doing this for the money. It doesn't have to be like that. Yeah, I think you can find what you're looking for, something that'll fit in your lifestyle as
Oh,
well.
totally. I mean, with these ADUs now, like you can have a really cool, like tiny home in the backyard and we've had so many great tenants over time. Like our perfect avatar is just a homeowner in training, like somebody who wants to get into a property. And, it's a sad day when they leave because I'm like, oh man, you bought a house, right? You're kind of leaving the
Mhm.
fold, but that's kind of what we want. And, those are tenants that are going to take care of your properties too. They make a great avatar and, they have good income, good careers, and they're focused on that, that next home of theirs in the future too.
What's next for you, Kory? What do you got coming up in the next year, 5 years? What are your plans?
Yeah, good question. Well, we're going to continue to grow our community, and if people ever do want to join the community, we have a huge WhatsApp group where people can get connected and just, if you need a trade or a person or an answer solved or whatever, just send me a DM and we can get you into that community. But continue to support real estate investors, and I just want to get back into buying mode, right? We're actually just like Quentin was talking about. We're going to be doing a bunch of refinancing and things too, and just expanding and taking on projects that I was hesitant to do when my kids were still young. But my youngest is 6 right now. My oldest is 13. I think they can really learn now by seeing like what it's like to build something, or we have 10 acres that could be a 34 building lot subdivision. We have that 10,000 square foot church that we can convert into our 29 units with a bit of an addition, expanding the storage facility. Like there's a lot of great things that we could be doing, getting into the apartment space. Actually, believe it or not, getting into like more Airbnb, because now that there's less Airbnbs, there's still a good demand. We're actually looking to lean a little bit more into that now too, so we can avoid LTV. And it's just something I enjoy, right? It's kind of nice to not have to deal with legacy tenants or like rents that fall behind too far. You always can keep your rents pretty high with that model too. So, and good
Well, I
cash
can
flow.
help you buy fully furnished down here on the ocean anytime. Just give me a call.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome. It works.
that's awesome. So how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, like I mentioned, people can send me a DM on Instagram. They can also send an email, Kory@KoryMacKinnon.com. I'm not that hard to find. Just Google me and you should
Hmm.
be able to get in touch. But yeah, always happy to help. People can also go subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. I've got a YouTube channel where we try to post relevant content about what our clients are doing, or just we just waterproof the basement. I want to show people like, hey, it's not something to be afraid of. Like this is the process of waterproofing a property if someone's had a water issue, right? So yeah, that's where we try to support people for free. So it's great.
That's cool. Thanks a lot. Are all of those in the show notes that you sent me? All the links? Sorry, did you send me all the links that you just mentioned for the show notes
I think so. If not, we can make sure that you get them right after this meeting.
and the WhatsApp?
I'll get you guys that link too.
Okay, cool. All right. Thanks, Kory, man. It's been nice to talk to you again. It's been quite a while. I know I've seen you in between when we talked on the podcast last time, but still, I think that was 6 years ago or something like that. So it was really nice to catch up. Appreciate you taking the time to come out and and help us learn from you. So thanks again.
No problem, and it's been great staying in touch with you. Definitely Costa Rica is on my radar, so we should chat more about that. Definitely need to get it. This has been the coldest winter in quite a while. A lot of snow.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, and it's great to stay in touch with Quentin. I think I saw Quentin in the past year at an event too. So love what you guys are doing, and I think people need more of this. So don't stop, guys. Appreciate you too.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Quentin, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can hop on to quintindesouza.com, book a 15-minute call. I'm always happy to chat with you about real estate or come out to a Durham REI event. We've been running the monthly since 2008, so you can always come out to one of those. Just send me a message, and I'm happy to send you a guest pass if you've never been there before. But that's the best way. How about you, Rob?
As always, email me at rob@mrbreakthrough.ca. And if you want to check out the gym, go to Surfside Gym Costa Rica on Facebook.
Awesome. Let's see those muscles, man. Like your gym muscles.
What am I? What am I, a
Come
dance
on,
monkey? Yeah,
come
look at
on. Look at
Kory's.
that. We were both doing it. Give me a break.
See you next time.